Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come my brother, come my sister, and let us build a nation together. So much of things that we need to see about.
Yes, indeed. So much of things we need to see about here in Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. I want to welcome you to the Dynamic Hour. And again, I do apologize for the late start, but boy, with technology, those things do happen. I want to encourage those on Facebook and YouTube to please share the live. Sharing is caring. Go ahead and share the live. I want to start off by bigging up those who organized successfully the Maroon Festival in Carriacou over the weekend. It was really a big success, So big up to all those who are a part of the organizing of this traditional Maroon Festival. I also want to big up those who are involved in the Riversali Saraka. That too was a big success. All right. Some people say the patrons or the amount of people who normally go to the Saraka, that was not as high as last year or the year before. Some again say, well, less people, more fun, the vibes was nice, it's about the culture and so on. The St. Mark celebrations, that didn't go too well coming to the latter part, the end. It started off well, but we heard of this incident, right? This shooting incident. And from all indications, it seems as though the individual may have succumbed to the injuries sustained, right? Still waiting for an official statement from the police, right? Because it's a police-involved shooting. But one lesson from all of this, and I've always said so, if you have a party and two persons or two individuals fighting, you should not shut down the party and disenfranchise the hundreds of people who just want to have clean fun, want to enjoy themselves in a nice way. Not because you have the authority, you should just come and shut it down. That is not a smart way to do things, because it tends to cause other things to happen. And everywhere you go, you get that kind of sentiment. People would say to you, well, why should the police come and shut down a party? Because two idiots decided to fight. But you have 150 people who not fighting, who just dancing, eating, drinking, and having fun, right? So these things have to be, you have to use your discretion. Yes, you may have the authority to shut the thing down. But if you use your discretion, you arrest or detain or, the two individuals who fighting, you deal with them. And you allow the people who just want to have a wonderful time to go ahead and have that. Also, police must always use their discretion. Always. Yes, the law may say X, Y, or Z, but your discretion is key. On the spot, at that time, at that place, your discretion. So it's a crowd. Should you fire at a crowd? That doesn't make sense. You see? That doesn't make sense at all. Right? And if you fire a shot or two, warning the people, they should back down, they should pull aside. You see, these are just common sense things. And I'm not saying that anybody right or wrong, but you have to use your common sense, right? Discretion during these kind of situations. You have to use your discretion. Yes, the law may say you could do X, you could do Y, but discretion is what's important. I'll give you another example. In the True Blue area, you have every Wednesday street food, every Wednesday. And there is a free flow of traffic. But, in Grenada, you don't have this plenty parking space. So people will park on more or less the sidewalk area, that's during the night time. But there's a free flow of traffic. It's not like vehicles are obstructing the traffic and you cannot, yes, we know people have to walk on the sidewalk and they have to pass there, right? And you should not obstruct that too. But the police needs to use their discretion because people are still able to pass. And there's a free flow. But yes, you have the clamps. And because you have the clamp, you clamp all the vehicles, right? So you clamp 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 vehicles because you know that a man must pay for that to be released, for them to be released and go their way. And they won't challenge $125. But it does not speak well for common sense and discretion, using your discretionary powers to say, but it's a festive, it's an event. So you expect vehicles to come there, and once they're not obstructing the free flow of traffic, why do you clamp them? Why do you, And then I remember another individual asking the police, well, yes, you have a police vest, but can you show me your ID? Right? Can you present your ID? Because yes, anybody could impersonate a police. Anybody could play a police. Anybody could pretend to be a police with a police vest. But you have no ID, no form of identification. So you don't know whether this person is a police or this one is a police. So sometimes again, and then you speak to the police officers or the young officers, because you speak to them and the attitude they give you. So I could know that you're a police, but the other person may not know that you're a police. So if they ask you to present your ID, the polite thing to do, the right thing to do is to present your ID. And I saw that on display at the street food, the True Blue area there. I think last week it was. And there was a nice, polite sergeant, very nice gentleman. But I thought he should have showed more leadership to say to these young officers, if someone asks you to present your ID, you should do so. Because not everyone knows that you're a police and you give an attitude, I could arrest you and I could, it does not speak well for the direction that the police is heading in. So you're seeing police officers doing some good job, good work, going into the community and building relationships and then two tools you find every now and then. Those things do pop up with the police. And I was on scene and I experienced that because, they believe that when a person comes from these social events that they're intoxicated or they drink, and sometimes they don't know. Sometimes people go to these events and they don't drink alcohol, period. So they should not judge. You see the point? So even in Trinidad, you see, even the commissioner of police, if they're going on a raid, they would have their badge or their ID that's visible. People could actually see it. It's on a string in their neck. So you know it's the police. But boy, I tell you, sometimes, and I just look at these young police officers, there are some good ones, and I say to myself, the sergeant, who I know, should at least guide them better to say to these junior police officers, look, if someone asks you to present your ID, what is your police badge number or your ID, you should do so. Because not everyone would, have that knowledge that you are a police. So leadership is key. I saw a similar thing when I had that situation with um, Charles, this police guy, right? A case that I later won easily, right? But um, the police at the time was James. He was a corporal of police, and he did not show leadership. He's involved in sports and so on, right? He did not show leadership because he could have easily said to this junior police, that doesn't make sense. Why would you arrest a person for crossing the road in Grenada, right? It's clear that you have some kind of malice against the person for crossing the road. Everybody crossed the road so he did not show leadership. And then when you go to the central police station, there's 2 or 3 corporals there again. They did not show leadership. So you have corporals, some of them, who are not good leaders. They cannot lead the 3 or 4 officers under their watch. And then you have some sergeants who again cannot lead, cannot show the leadership that is required to say to the corporal, no, what you're doing doesn't make sense. It's not common sense. Yeah, that is what is key. Sometimes in situations, yes, you may have the law written and it's the law and it's the law and the law, but if you use your discretion, it might pan out to be way more important than you reading the law. It's a common sense thing. So you have a lot of junior police officers who need leadership. And if you have corporals, because everybody want to rank, but you need to have the corporals who have leadership skills, who could call the junior officer aside and say, look, that doesn't make sense, right? Do something differently. That is what is required now, because you have some junior officers, boy, they read for you, for example, in St. George's on Hillsborough Street, right? Because these days, the police walking with this clamp as though it's a style, which is utter rubbish. It's like they're exploiting the poor. That is like they're taking advantage of poor people in the country. They have the clamp, and sometimes you're not even obstructing the traffic, but they come and they clamp you. They just clamp, and it's like a style, and then the traffic wardens too. You see, these things have to be, it's like they're taking advantage of the poor. And look, I like the police, I would defend them. I like them. But over time, you observe certain things. You observe certain things and you say, Hillsborough Street is a one-way street. You have a no parking sign on a one-way street. Firstly, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense if you know Hillsborough Street. One flow of traffic. All right? So there is no need for a no parking sign there. It's just stupid in the first instance. And then you have this clamp, and you clamp in these vehicles. And you say to yourself, but what is this for? You could easily say to the person, officer, I'm officer X, Y, and Z. Can you move the vehicle? It's just stupid. There are some police officers who are a bit more smart. They would come and speak to the person and say, well, look, it's a no parking area, and it's a one-way traffic. 2 vehicles could easily, one could park here and another vehicle could pass. Easy on Hillsborough Street in St. George's. So sometimes it's common sense, using wisdom in carrying out your duty. But this clamping thing is like a style these days. You come with a clamp and you could just oppress somebody and you clamp them. It's like a style. That has to stop, right? That has to stop. You have to use your common sense. Because you see, policing It's about relationship, building relationship. A gentleman said to me, a police officer clamped him, right? He was not obstructing any traffic, but he clamped his vehicle. And then the night, he was going up to Grenville, and he saw that said police officer mopping a ride by Decall gas station to go up to Grenville, right? And he slowed down. When he mopped the ride, he slowed down, and he put down the glass, and he watched the police officer like this. And the police officer was in awe. That's the same guy he just clamped earlier today. And he's going to Grenville, and he needed a ride because there was no bus to go to Grenville or somewhere up that side. It could be Vendom, it could be. And then the gentleman said he pulled up the glass and it was against his conscience to give him a ride, knowing that he just made him pay the $125 for nothing. Because you're a police once and you're a civilian twice. So building relationship is key because you never know where you're going to end up. So sometimes you oppress a person, you clam them, and they don't have the money and they have to go and find it, and you take advantage of the person. So it's a balancing act. Common sense is key. There's some really nice police officers, decent police officers who do their job diligently and with wisdom and common sense. Common sense. They would not go there this morning having a target of 50 tickets. Because there are some of them who go there with a target. Today are going out and are charging 50 people or 10 people or 20 people. It doesn't make sense. It's not wisdom, if you ask me. Hello? Hello? Hey, Dr. Pet.
That situation with the police, I want
No, you're live. You want to cut off the radio. Cut off the radio behind you.
Okay.
You want to cut off the radio. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. You're live.
Yes, Ken Jones. I'm happy to bring up this thing. I go to Caracou every week, right?
Right.
So I park up by the Osprey. So I parked my vehicle by the Osprey, as usual. And when I came back, I was going to the vehicle to drive the vehicle normally. And somebody said, no, Dr. Peck, there's a clamp on your wheel. No obstruction, right at Osprey normally, yeah? There was a young police officer, a rookie, for me to say that. And probably his car is parked close to my car. But probably somebody came before and they touched his car. So my car had a little scratch. So he said, it is my car. When I go to the station, I said, well, why are you clamp my car? Oh, the young guy, arrogant, very arrogant. Oh, look. And he used some word. You bounced my car. I said, but I bounced your car, boss. I was there long. You could attest to the people from Osprey. So yellow come, and most of them come, and they give me an attitude, and they measuring. I said, but the police station is supposed to have a camera right there. Where is the camera? You understand? I didn't touch the guy kind of him. And they locked the wheel. So if I drove in the car, if I go in the car and cut the wheel, I would damage the axle and damage everything in the vehicle. Do you understand?
Right.
So they don't use this discretion because there's no way somebody probably touched this car, they come on the next side. And he said, because my car have a scratch that it looked like my car bumped his vehicle. I was so mad, and I'm not going to leave it so. I'm saying it, openly if they're hearing me, I'm going to the commissioner of police. Because you cannot lock my car. You cannot chop down my car without knowing nothing about it. And eventually, they have to take out my son, so the climb from the wheel. Oh, Dr. Peg, you are not respect. I said, I'm afraid you all of us are human beings. Why climb my vehicle? And then they say, okay, Yellow, come in major. I say, Yellow, you're a senior officer. Why are you doing these things to people? Because you have a uniform, if you could just climb somebody. I say, had it been you all, that I would think you bong somebody, would you have climbed in the wheel? And they just forget about me, and they just go inside. They say I'm disrespectful. So that's what the situation is.
All right. Right. Well, look, there are some really nice police officers. Very, very nice, genuine, sincere police officers. I can tell you that. And they do their work professionally. But there are some, again, the attitude, the disrespect, the way they talk down to people. I give you another real situation where there was a gentleman, an elderly gentleman driving, and another lady on the other side in a vehicle. So a police came up to the vehicle because the gentleman did not have his seatbelt on. Elderly guy in his 70s. And he came up to the vehicle and he said, man, you have your seatbelt on. And then the gentleman said to him, but you calling me either boy or man, something like that, he referred to him, right? And he said, I am what your age 3 times, 4 times maybe. So why would you call me that? You did not ask me why I did not have the seatbelt. And it's because the gentleman took an operation. So he has an exemption. So, he has a reason why he can't wear the seatbelt, right? But he did not ask that. So the police officer uh, did it differently. Good afternoon, sir. I notice you not wearing your seatbelt. Can you tell me why? And then maybe the elderly gentleman would turn around and say, well, look, I did an operation and I have an exemption from wearing the seatbelt. And then the lady next door was a senior public officer, right? Senior as right up there. And she turned around and said to him, that's not the way you approach things. That is not the way you deal with people. That is not the way you speak to people. You see? Because you're going to get a different reaction from the individual. So sometimes it's a balancing act, right? Sometimes it's a balancing act. You don't. So there is a need for leadership, not high up there. I'm talking about at the constable level, at the corporal level, at the sergeant level, and at the inspector level. There's a need for leadership. And I mean all the way up. But from that, because these are the people who you meet every day, you would quicker meet a constable or a corporal or a sergeant or an inspector. I quicker meet these people on a daily basis. So there's a need for leadership. And I think there's a call from the public for there to be constant training and refreshers, regular refreshers, that you train them from time to time in leadership, how to lead, and how to and customer service, because you're a rep of the state, so you need to have good customer service, how to speak to people, how to deal with people, how to relate to people. So customer service and leadership skills, that is key for the police. Because you have some young police officers, all they do, they go by the books and not using common sense, not using discretion. All right? And that is why you get all the bad news popping up every now and then, while the police is trying their best to go into a different direction, to deal with people differently, to communicate differently, but you have 1 or 2 of them that will go mess up the whole thing. They're going to just mess it up. And the whole police force will get a bad image. You don't want that, because not all police officers are bad. You have some really good police officers who would speak to you, who would guide you accordingly, who would not, react in a disrespectful manner by giving the police force a bad name. Because, they're trying, the police force, they're trying to go into a different direction. Instead of being a force, but to be a service to people. That is what it's supposed to be, right? And I've been noticing certain things. You go wrong, and you especially the younger ones, you got to train them. You got to bring them in sessions, how to deal with people, how to speak to people, how to, yes, you might have the law on your side, but many a times when people take you to court, when they take you to court and you lose, the state has to pay wrongful arrest, false imprisonment, and all kinds of stuff. The state has to pay, which is sad. Sad. So there's a need for the police to be retrained, given a refresher every now and then. Every now and then, a little refresher course. I think that would go a long, long way in helping the police to deal with people. Because I told you about the situation in at street food. Because every Wednesday you have street food at Chublo Bay, Dodgy Dock. Every Wednesday. There isn't a million places to park. People will come with their vehicles. It's the nighttime, right? Once the vehicles are not obstructing the traffic, why do you clamp it? Why do you charge them? Why do you understand? They park on a particular side, free flow of traffic moving up, down, no problem. But then you clamping the people. As though you're coming to spite the establishment or spite the people. And then when one or two of the drivers ask you for your ID, because you have a police vest, but anybody could wear this plastic vest thing, marked police. Anybody could do that. You're not in your full uniform. You're not in a police uniform. And even if you're in a police uniform, you're still, if a person asks you for your number, your badge, or your ID, you're supposed to present that. That's kind of common sense. Or your name. That's common sense. And then you have a sergeant who is there, who's supposed to lead. Leadership is key, Lead. And say, that doesn't make sense. Or a person asks you for your badge, your ID, provide it. Give him the information. Because he has a right to know. But then you come with an attitude and attitude. I don't have to give you, I don't have to this. Right in the presence of the sergeant. Right in the presence of the sergeant. I know 2 or 3 of the officers, right? Junior officers. I know them. There's another one that I don't know, but I know them. I recognize them and so on. But that's me. I'm not driving. But the driver doesn't know. He asked. Right? So there is a need for leadership. So all the talk, all the bluff, all the fluff, it has to be backed up by solid action. So that in the future, what happened in St. Mark does not reoccur, doesn't happen again. You don't want these things to reoccur. And so many other stories, people would tell you stories. They would tell you stories and then you wonder. But you have good police officers, but you would find 1 or 2 bad seed in the mix. And there's a need for leadership. Everybody wants a stripe on their shoulder. But can they lead? Can they lead? That's the question. Can they actually, be in charge of 3 officers or 4 officers or 5 officers? Can they actually be in charge of that and lead and show leadership? That's the next question. Do they have what it takes to, when the space is warm, to calm that down, to control that? Because everything is not arresting a person, or charging a person, or clamping their vehicle. It's far more than that. Hello? Hello?
Hello, good morning, Kim.
Good morning.
Yes, calling from Cargo.
You're calling from Carriacou. Uh-huh.
Known as the problem solver. Kim, I do agree with you 100% in terms of our officers, them, and the training that is required, the leadership part of it. It's a complete failure, and we need something to be done in this area of our law enforcement officers with the public and the relationship, because they are there to protect and serve. And I had a lot of experience, terrible and ugly experience with officers, and I spent a lot of time trying to educate them within the duty and the law in which they're supposed to uphold. And they deliberately, shows reluctancy in that area. And, I would complain, sometimes even go as far as to the commissioner. I had officers chief failing in the leadership, caused damage to my home, and having me to pay for 17 years of abuse and a lot of, tricks and lies, because of I'm gifted, very gifted. I have a lot of abilities. I teach a lot of young people. I made a lot of valuable contribution in society, from politics right down, and they should use me as an example. But these folks seems to think that, you have some kind of name. And so if I can get it's like an adrenaline rush to just, Rodney. His name is calling everywhere, Rodney. They would not listen to nothing. From the time my name called, they just would doing unlawful thing to me and my home.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my brother. All right. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. All right. One love. Yes. All right. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, and I respect that. Thank you very much. You have a lot of stories there to tell, which is wonderful, and a lot of contributions to make, and this is a good thing, right? But I'm simply saying there is a need for leadership. Leadership is key. Leadership, right? Everybody wants stripe, everybody wants promotion, everybody wants to, but can they actually lead? Because I remember some years ago, there was a scuffle between a police and an individual. And there was this super, well, at the time, I think he was an ASP. He was passing and he called the individual who was scuffling with the police. And whatever he said to him, that individual walked from that location straight to the police station without any assistance, right? Without any assistance. He went straight into the police station and he sat there. And then the individual came down, the police, the senior officer, reports were made, he was arrested, charged, and given bail. All this scuffling, nothing. So it's not what you do, but how you do what you do. And when you do what you do. Timing is important. Especially now. Whatever he said to him, right? All the scuffling and all that stuff, whatever he said to the individual didn't need any police assistance to go to the police station. He walked and he goes straight into the police station. So, you see, it's a balancing act. There's a need for prudence, right? Wisdom in the execution of your duty. Because police work is not an easy work, It could be tough, it could be hard, it could be stressful. And there are some really good police officers. Decent police officers. But when it boils down to, one or two. Hello?
Morning. Thank you very much for coming to your program.
Right. Well, the program is not actually a call-in program, huh? It's not a call-in program. No. All right. One love. Yeah. No problem. Yeah, plenty love. Yeah, the program is not a call-in program. All right. So sorry for that. I know there are people who want to vent, want to speak. Sorry for that. They're my brother. Sorry. I just took 2 calls there by chance, but it's not a call-in program. All right. Just for now, just saying again, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. There are some really good police officers, decent, nice, wonderful police officers out there who would use wisdom in executing their duties. They would speak more than arresting and charging. And I know you have police officers who would speak, who would pull you aside and say, come, let me talk to you. What you're doing is wrong. You shouldn't do X, you shouldn't do Y. Decent, nice. They speak to you as a mother or father would. Hello? Yes, not. No, it's not. It's not. No. Right. He's still warded. Condition. Beautiful. All right. Thank you. Nice. Right. So that's a friend they're saying the gentleman is still warded at the hospital, and that's really good news, right? So he did not succumb to his injury. And let's pray and hope that he survives and that he, but I'm generally speaking here, right? In a general context, just saying that there are some really good police officers out there doing their duty with with wisdom, with common sense, with discretion, and they would speak to you, and you wonder if they're a mother or father speaking to you. They would guide you nicely. But there are those that need some guidance, some leadership, some support. And if you're a senior officer, if you're a corporal, or if you're a senior constable, right, you need to lead. You need to guide them, right? If you're a corporal, you're a sergeant, because you're in a leadership position. You have to help those who are younger to say to them, look, it's not about charging always or arresting always or talking down to people, right? Sometimes you have to understand the situation, pull aside, talk, because there are people who could share testimony of some good police officers and how they execute their duty. So all of them are not bad. Don't go with that impression that all of them bad and all of them this. No, no, no. There are some really good police officers. And the police force right now, over the last many, many months, you see that they're going in a different direction, right? They're going in a different direction to build community relation or relationships. Build relationships. You realize they have been, and we have been talking about that on this program, commending them, applauding them for going into the community and building relationships. That is key. That is good when you build relationships. I want that to continue, and everybody would want that to continue. Speaking to business leaders, speaking to community leaders, speaking to groups, speaking to young people, speaking to... That is very, very important. That the police, they have been doing that job excellently, wonderfully. We have to give them kudos for that, but there are one or two from time to time that would give the police a bad name. And it does not sit well with citizens, with people. We want to see the police continue to build good relationships and deal with people better. So, for example, you have the junction, for example. Every Friday night, there's a party, the Buries and the junction in Lansepine. So vehicles, I remember there was a sergeant, not sergeant, ASP, I think it was, ASP, and police officers came down there. And what they did, they came into junction and the Buries, and they announced all the people with vehicles on this side of the road, remove them and put it on this side of the road. That was good. But there was another occasion where, some police came there, young police with a sergeant or whoever, and they just camp everybody. You understand the point? And the police, when they announced that, everybody in that space, the 200 or 300 people, they were in high commendation for the action taken by the police. When they came in, they asked the DJ to announce that the people with vehicles on this side of the road put it on the other side, because it was not that there was any obstruction in terms of free flow of traffic, because it's kind of wide enough to accommodate two vehicles. But at the end of the day, it was a good gesture. They did not charge all these people or clamp all these people, no. And the folks easily, quickly removed the vehicle. And so that's good policing. That's good policing. So you have 300, 400 people leaving that space with a good impression of the police. So sometimes you may want to do certain things, right? And it may turn out to be a bad, even if you might be legally right to do it. You could charge them, you could calm them, but it's not what you do, but it's how you do what you do. And that is what the police need to do in going forward. Because it's easy to arrest a man, It's easy to charge a man. It's easy to target a man, harass him, because you're the police. You could harass him, and charge him. You're the police. There are police officers who could easily do that. But if you deal with people honestly, if you deal with people genuinely, if you deal with people as human to human, you will go a long, long way. You would build better relationships, because there are police officers who, when they retire, they cannot come back into the community like a normal citizen. It's like they're in a prison. They have to remain in their house. They cannot relate. They cannot interact with the community because of how they dealt or deal with the people over the many years that they were actually police officers. I know that. It's like they isolated because they never, build relationships. They never dealt with people properly in the community. And there are some, again, when they retire, man, they come back as a citizen, as a civilian, and people love them. People embrace them. That is what you want. I gave you a story some years ago on one of my programs, and I said there was a sergeant, right? So a gentleman was arrested in handcuff in the police station. He was arrested. And this police officer, who later became a sergeant of police, abused the guy, beat the guy while in handcuff, beat him. So the guy couldn't do anything. He beat him bad. The guy left here. He went to the United States of America and, started working and settled down and he had family and everything. And the sergeant went on holiday in the United States and he ended up in some club and the guy saw him there. And the guy gave him one gun boot. He fell flat down on the ground. And the guy said to him, if I was not a changed man, it would have been a different situation. But he said he's a changed man now. You know, the sergeant left the United States before time and come back to Grenada? Because he's scared. He left there before time and came back to Grenada. At least he could live. He lived to tell the story of what happened. And after that, he's approached the police and changed. He changed totally. Because this guy was in handcuff. You're going to beat him. Right? You abuse him. Nothing didn't come out of it. Because, you're the police. But the guy went overseas. Because, we're in a global village. The guy said, because he's a changed man, the guy lucky. Lucky. Yep. Came back before time. Back to Grenada. So it's not what you do, but it's how you do what you do. And never abuse your power and your authority. Never. And use your discretion. Yes, the law may say, do not park at this area, no parking. But I saw, for example, a young police officer recently. He came on the same Hillsborough Street. And the gentleman went upstairs in his medical facility with his mother. So he just put on the hazard light and quickly go upstairs, right? And then the young police officer came, said, who does this vehicle belong to? And somebody said to him, well, it's a gentleman who went upstairs, X, Y, and Z. And then he was okay with that. He said, okay, let me give him a little time so he could, and the guy, within 10, 15 minutes, he came back down, or 5, 10 minutes, he came back down, go in the vehicle. And then the officer, he said, well, thank you, officer, and he gone. Right? Because he didn't want to stop there. But he had to, because he was bringing his mother, who is not well, to that medical facility to get care. So sometimes it's discretion. Right? The police could have easily come and charge the guy, or calm the vehicle, or, you see the point? But he didn't do that. Discretion. So there's a need for discretion and leadership. That is key. Leadership. Not everybody should be a corporal. Not everybody should be a sergeant. Not everybody should be an inspector. Not everybody should be a ASP or a superintendent. No. Nope. Some do not possess the leadership skills. They might be in the police force for a long time. They might be qualified academically and so on and so forth. When it comes to leading, that is where the whole thing lies or stops. Right there, leading, being able to lead, to call the junior officer aside and say, I don't think you should approach it this way. You should approach it that way. All right? I don't think you should do it this way, but you should do it that way. Or call the person aside, speak to them, and you would get more respect from that. You would get more respect. I remember again, I was in a particular place. I think it was somewhere in St. David. And the police, they came to search. And they met two young fellas with a little joint. And he said to him, he said, that's all you have on you? And the gentleman said, yes. So they searched the guy and one joint. And the police officer took the joint from him and he said, go home, man. You understand? Because it doesn't make sense. You're taking the young man, you're arresting him, bringing him to a court for one joint. It doesn't make sense. It's laughable. So the police, yes, could have arrested him for the possession of that. But there are bigger fish to fry. It doesn't make sense. I could see if you get him with a whole pile of whatever. But that was the leadership. He said, nah. He said, look, go home. Yeah, he just took it and he get rid of it. He said, go home, go home. You understand the point? So it's not what you do, but how you do what you do. And the people who were there, they say, nah, boy, that police is different. Right? There was two police officers. I think they were RRU or special, whatever, or drug squad or whatever they call them. Right? But the leadership displayed there was very good. Very, very good. Good leadership. All right. So again, and I speak about the police this morning because people are out there and they're a bit tense. And there's a lot of misinformation. About what happened in St. Mark. A lot of misinformation, especially on social media. That is why I said this morning, an incident took place in St. Mark, and it's a shooting incident involving the police and some individual or individuals. On social media, some people saying that the guy died, but we are still awaiting an official statement from the police. A gentleman called me a while ago and said the guy is still warded at the general hospital in critical condition. All right? That is what the gentleman said to me. But I'm saying the reason why I talk about the police is because there are some good police officers, some really good police officers who are doing their job well, who are like mothers and fathers to the young and to the old too. They're like counselors. They're like elders, right? They know how to deal with situations. That is key. That is crucial in this time. Leadership. Customer service. Knowing how to speak to people, how to deal with situations. That's important. But we have some really good police officers out there. Some really good police officers doing a wonderful job. All right? And keep it up. Keep it up. Continue being that example among your peers. Continue being a good example among your peers. All right? And it's not what you do, but how you do what you do and when you do what you do. Folks, I want to wish you all the best. Have a wonderful day. I will be back with you tonight in the hub, starting from 8 in the p.m. Peace and love. Let's continue to respect the police, and we expect same from the police. All right? Yeah. That's important. Somebody saying, right, so let's see how it goes. All right? So you're getting a lot of conflicting stories. A lot of conflicting stories. So you still have to wait for an official statement from the police. All right? And that is important. Don't just run with what you're seeing on social media. There's a lot of things on social media. So, for example, this morning, Panames called the Plea Due Cause program, and he talked about government intends to uh, rent a building for $200,000, I think he said, something like that, or $20,000, not $20,000. Used there $20,000. He said a month, right, for some facility, some building, government to house, and then you wonder, you want to know what's going down, and then you discover that government is renting the building for the Ministry of Finance, because the building where the Ministry of Finance is, it has a lot of mold and a lot of leak, it's a health hazard for the workers. So the workers cannot work in that environment. It's unhealthy. So the government has to remove them from that unhealthy environment and put them in some way better while doing repairs on the facility. All right. So, and sometimes you get that kind of story coming. You call Plea Due Cause program and he just says so, just say something. And then he calculates the thing and say, well, at the end of the 5-year period or whatever they lease it for, $5 million or whatever he mentioned, right? Something like that he mentioned. But when you get deep down, then you realize, because I saw a notice, I then go and check. And I saw a notice on GIS speaking to the relocation of the Ministry of Finance, right? So that there would be one or two other departments that would be there still in some of the safe ends, right? But generally speaking, they're moving them to a better condition, right? And yes, if you're using somebody's building, you have to pay. It says here, or is it? I saw it on GIS. There's a release I saw on GIS, press release, government, right? Right. So it says relocation of the Ministry of Finance and Limited Services. The Ministry of Finance is pleased to announce the relocation of its offices and limited services to this Galleria Mall, Grandans, St. George. Right? Galleria Mall. The relocation is a necessary response to serious structural and environmental concerns identified at the financial complex building. The health and safety of our employees and the public remains a top priority. During the week of Monday, April the 28th, 2025 to Monday, May the 5th, 2025, the operations of the ministry will be relocated. As a result, limited services will be provided at the financial complex, at the executive offices, administrative offices, procurement units, concessions, budget, policy and debt units, internal audit, and gaming commission, along with other offices connected to the Ministry of Economic Development and the Ministry of Trade and Export Development. We will continue to provide services through our division at the Accountant General's Office on Local Street, St. George, Inland Revenue and Treasury Services on Young Street, St. George. And they kind of detail, telling you what's going down. But if you listen to the Plea Due Cause and you hear Panames, what he said, right? Because now he's talking about the movement like crazy. So I don't know if he's a part of the movement, because that's Peter Boy. He used to be on Andre station up north, talking politics and the NNP. He used to be pushing the NNP agenda, the NNP. But all of a sudden, he now talking about the movement, right? And folks, be careful with this movement thing. Anytime you hear about this movement, it kind of making people remember the revolutionary time, right? Anytime you hear about this movement, but it's like a click, 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 click. It makes people believe and think back about the revolutionary period. All right? So be careful with that movementing and that movementing that you're hearing from these people. But anyways, so if you listen to the political cause, then you say the man costs some money and rent and whatever. But if you're going to use somebody's place, you have to rent it. You have to pay. You have to lease the building and you have to pay. It's simple like that. So the government can't leave the workers in that environment that they get sick. No. And you know what it speaks to? The NNP never maintain many of these buildings. They never maintain many of these buildings. I'm telling you. They never spend money to fix the roofs, to fix the plumbing issue, to fix the mold issue, and that is why government now is caught in this place where they have to be renting these buildings, removing the workers from those facilities that are unhealthy for them and bringing them in new buildings that you understand the point. It's not something that the government wants to do, but they have to do it. They must do it because the workers will get sick. I remember there was an employee, Miss Brown. I think her name is Miss Brown. We used to work in housing authority together some years ago. And she told me, I said, hey, I went and paid some tax or something like that. And she said, hey, Kim, I ain't know when I see you. I said, Miss Brown, I ain't know when I see you too. She living somewhere in the south of the island. She said, boy, you didn't hear I was sick. She told me she was sick. So what happened? She said the mold and thing in the building, in the Ministry of Finance, the mold on the wall. Because the place, you see, you have to maintain it because it's old buildings. This building's been there donkey years and years. So you have to maintain it. You have to keep it in good shape. You understand the point? You have to have people, if there's a little problem, you fix it before it gets bad. But the NNP never maintain anything. They never had a maintenance crew for the ministries, for the schools, for the medical stations, for the, even the road. Remember before you had public works. You had public works where in certain areas you have a crew will be responsible for certain areas, right? So if there is a little hole that pops up in the road, they're going to fix it before it gets bad. That's what used to happen before. But when NNP came into power, they scrapped all that. So every time you have to give somebody a contract to go and fix this part of the road and fix that and fix that. But if you had a maintenance crew working throughout the year, if there is a if there's an actual hole that pops up, then they're going to just fix it. So there's no maintenance. So all these buildings, government buildings, you realize what's going down. Even the ministerial complex, when NDC came into power, there was serious problems. The AC not working, the rug, they had some rug on the floor, making the workers sick. And the NDC had to renovate the entire ministerial complex and remove all the rugs and put tiles and so on. It was making the workers sick in the ministerial complex. So they never maintain, the NNP never maintain anything. They never fix anything. So that is why you have those problems. You have those problems now happening. And then those NNP pundits will go on different programs that they think they have access to and just say anything. Well, I don't know if the guy's an NNP pundit anymore or surrogate, because now he's speaking for the movement. He also has movement. But be very careful with this movement thing, right? It speaks to, it's like remnants of the revolution or the RMC or the elements like that. It speaks to that. It kind of give you a sense that is what it is. It may not be so, but that is the idea. That's the feeling that people get when they hear about this movement movement and the movement and the movement. Be very careful where that is concerned. Speaks to, like the elements of the RMC, like they're trying to pull themselves together and see if they could set up something. That is what it feels like. It doesn't have to be so, but that is what it feels like. All right? So, a person just calling a radio and say, well, the government going to lease or rent a building for $20,000 or $200,000 or $50,000 or whatever the amount. Right? Okay. But the government is renting buildings right now. The building on Locust Street, where they have the Inland Revenue Department and so on, the government is renting that. And there are a lot of other buildings that the government is renting to house some of those ministries. What do you expect them to do? If you check the buildings, them old buildings and them moles, you have mole in it. If you have mole, it can go inside of your lungs, your stomach, your body, and live and make you sick. It's unhealthy for workers. So again, I'm just saying, if you follow some of those programs and social media and so on, you could get all tied up. But folks, I want to thank you for being a part of the program this morning. I want to wish you all the best, right? I want to wish you all the best. Our beloved Prime Minister will embark on his first official visit to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela on Monday, April the 28th, and return to state on Tuesday, April the 29th. All right? The visit underscores the long-standing relationship between Grenada and Venezuela and reflects both nations' shared commitment to strengthening bilateral relationship and cooperation according to across various sectors, including agriculture, health, education, and tourism. During the official visit, the Prime Minister is scheduled to hold high-level discussions with President Nicolas Maduro, to discuss key areas of interest. The government of Grenada reaffirms its commitment to fostering strong, mutually beneficial relationship with all its partners and looks forward to further deepening the bonds with the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. The Honorable Deacon Mitchell will be accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Joseph Andel. In his absence, the Honorable Andy Williams will act as Prime Minister. All right, so he's on an official visit to Venezuela. We wish him all the best, he and his team. All right, so folks, I want to wish you all the best too. Have a wonderful day. I'll be back with you tonight in the hub